Took a while to wake them up. Good morning, Rotarians and guests.
Good morning, Ron.
I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is, is by Joe Avella. There he is.
Today's prayer is a prayer for peace. It's the peace prayer of St. Francis. You've probably heard of this prayer, but what you may not know is that we don't think that St. Francis wrote the prayer, that 13th century monk. Actually, the earliest version of the prayer can be traced to 1912 in a magazine in Paris, France. It was later translated into English, came over to the United States, and it was read widely during World War II. In any case, the peace prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is error, the truth. Where there is doubt, the faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may so not much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and that it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Thank you, Joe. To lead us in the pledge and the four-way test this morning, Larry Santon.
Most of you will recall the last time I stood up here, I got tangled up with submarines and whatever, and so to avoid that kind of problem today, I'm going to read this, okay, and therefore I should be able to get through. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This one is safer since all the words are printed. So, four-way test. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Wow.
Congratulations, Larry.
I think Larry missed first grade where they taught the Pledge of Allegiance. To lead us in song, Dick Pearsall.
You're going to have to rely a little on your memory this morning. We have a little camera trouble. So we're just going to sing America. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims flight, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. And to lead the meeting today, filling in for Allison, is past President Tom Page.
Thank you, Ron. And I have to ask you, just like Gail did last week, who's got it better than us?
Nobody.
Yeah, you passed the test. Good. I want to introduce our esteemed secretary, Ms. Chris Barker, and she'll introduce guests.
Good morning, Rotarians. We have a few visitors with us today. If they would please stand up so we can welcome them. We have Amy Jordan and we have Drew Forhan from Hudson Community Foundation, and they are both guests of Jim Hackney. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. Oh, gee, I don't want to acknowledge myself, so I won't. But greeters today were Larry and someone else, Larry Santon. And he didn't have to have a list for that. And then our AV help, Inky, Ron's not here today. And then James. Where are you, James? I know you're back there somewhere. Okay. And Meredith. Meredith, next week I think is when you're off. Yeah. Just a couple announcements. No board meeting this week. It's going to be next week when President Allison returns from sunny Texas. Inky, where are you?
Morning, Breakfast Clubbers. I'm pretty sure you're going to hear more about this next week from Allison, and you're all familiar with the Gift of Life and Ken Fogle. Anyway, there is a vocational training team farewell dinner on October the 26th down in Magador. I'm planning to go. I hope more of us will go. And I'm pretty sure you're going to. But you can also go on the website and check it out. As far as it's $75, so it's a pretty good dinner, I would imagine. And secondly, this is for Duncan Tanner. You know what to do with those guys that get their picture in the paper?
Oh my goodness. Look at that.
And he happens to be here today, and he brought a lot of money.
Really?
Ohio owning.
Really?
Pretty nifty though, 150 years old.
Congratulations. Never looked better.
Jimmy, did you take my agenda?
Oh, swell. Let's see how you do without an agenda.
Don't tell the fine master.
I'm Larry too.
Okay, Fine Master, we can wait a few weeks.
I didn't memorize this. I didn't.
Oh, that's more than $1. I'll see you in 3 weeks. Oh.
Gail, do you want to make a little update announcement on cleanup next week?
Email.
Okay. Okay. Next Wednesday from 10 to 1. Camp Ledgewood. Okay. Pardon?
Yoga from 8 to 10.
Oh, that's right. For you yoga people. That won't be me. This is just a pre announcement. Start saving your money. Start contacting your people that you're going to sell roses to and caramel corn. Because yes, we're going to have a fall fundraiser and more to come. We'll be meeting with the captains on October 26th. And then the kickoff meeting for all of us will be November 5th. And we're going to deliver just before Christmas on December 17th. So that's just a little pre-announcement. Does anybody have any other announcements or anything they want to say? I know, Coach, you're going to say something later. Going once, going twice. Duncan Tanner, we have a historical Rotary tidbit.
We do.
Leave my thing there.
I won't touch the agenda, I'm sorry. Good morning, fellow history buffs.
Good morning.
Before we dive into today's history tidbit, I want to thank everybody. Last week's Feinmeister program raised $119. Now, I don't know how that compares historically, but it was pretty good in my short reign, so thank you all very much. Well done. Jimmy, where are you? I'm not touching that dollar, pal, so just come back and get it, because I'll talk to you in 3 weeks, okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Rotary and race. As a community-based organization, Rotary clubs around the United States had, for the most part, tried to mirror local and regional cultures. Certainly, the chapters in Rotary's fledgling years, among them Chicago, San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, and Seattle, were almost solely comprised of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males, memberships that quite frankly reflected those communities' leadership base. As Rotary expanded and racial, ethnic, and religious demographics shifted, Irish, Italian, Eastern European, Jewish, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, and Asian cultures were welcomed into Rotary beginning in the Roaring '20s, through the Depression era, and into the World War II years. Unfortunately, African Americans were not embraced until many years later. A blaring example of this discrimination, and honestly there's no other word for it, was the Birmingham, Alabama Club. Founded in 1913, the club's bylaws opened membership to, and I quote, any white male person of moral character. At this time, this local chapter rule was not in violation of Rotary's international constitution. While that constitution did change in 1922 with an amendment prohibiting exclusion of any male based on nationality, color, or creed, a codicil in that same amendment declared chapters founded before 1922 to be exempt and therefore didn't have to change. Birmingham Rotary's policy became the subject of a national debate in 1982 when the city's leading newspaper published an article exposing the club's practices. Particularly ironic was the fact that in 1982, the mayor of Birmingham was black, 55% of the city's political leaders were black, and 50% of the region's business owners or business operators were also black. While the Birmingham Club stuck to its guns and remained both all-white and all-male until the early 1990s, most U.S. clubs did the right thing many years earlier. While Rotary archives are somewhat ambiguous on the subject, it is believed that the Milpitas, California Rotary Club was the first to admit a black person. A member of the heroic Tuskegee Airmen, Captain Gerald Williams, United States Air Force retired, was inducted in that club in 1972. His sponsor was retired Air Force Colonel Tom Whiting, at that time the club president, who during the induction ceremony thanked Gerald for saving his life. According to Whiting, who was a B-52 tail gunner, it was Williams's 332nd Fighter Group, which came to be known as the Red Tails, who kept German fighters at bay, enabling successful bombing raids over Berlin. Next week, the first in a three-part series on Rotary, rubber, and Northeast Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. And now for the main encores here. We're going to have Coach come up and tell us a couple of things that happened last weekend and then introduce our speaker.
Quick sports report. If you look at the Plain Dealer today, you'll see that the Hudson Explorers football team remains number one in the football poll. And also on the OHSAA computer poll for the Division I Northern Division. So we continue as an undefeated team to travel this Friday to Solon to battle the Comets, who are also having an outstanding year. Somebody asked me if it gets easier. It doesn't get any easier. The schedule is completely competitive as we move forward with this. Also, if you look at the hub today, you'll see the girls volleyball team swept Mentor, which was a premier program forever. So our volleyball team's doing great. Again, the soccer teams continue to battle, and also our golf teams are on the tournament trail. So those types of things are happening at the schools, and we're very proud of all the effort from our student athletes. We also had the band show last Saturday, and I think we had 11 bands at Memorial Stadium, and it was a cool but great night for those groups that were competing in that competition. Next week, as our speakers, we'll have Judge Parker. We're going to have judges the following week, but Judge Parker was available, and also Christina Rogner and David Warhatch are going to talk about the Senate race. So that's on the agenda for next week.
It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers today, and Jim Hackney is one of our own and has been very, very active in the community in many endeavors, but especially with the Hudson Community Foundation, and I'm glad that he brought Amy Jordan, the brains of the outfit, along with him to present to us. So, Jim, you're up.
Good morning, fellow Rotarians. I think we're all set, right? Okay, I'll let you know when. Today we're here to talk about the Hudson Community Foundation. This is to be an informational meeting, and I'll put you all at ease. We're not here to ask you for money. The Hudson Community Foundation was founded in around 2000, about 14 years ago, and a very dedicated set of board members, about 20 people, over the last 14 years has contributed from their own funds about almost $750,000 to pay for the operational costs of this foundation in order to found it and get it going. I'm happy to report that since our founding, our base assets have grown to approximately $14 million, which is a good beginning for the first 14 years based on the history I've looked at for foundations. The Hudson Community Foundation was founded in order to enable Hudson citizens to carry on the tradition of philanthropy that's so important to Hudson. All of you know our stories about how the town was founded, how it was rejuvenated during the Depression, so people can carry on that tradition. It's a great tradition. It makes Hudson part of what it is. Today I'm not going to preach to you about philanthropy or anything like that. As I said, this is an informational meeting. We have well, based on our research, market research, we've discerned that even though a lot of people know about the Hudson Community Foundation, not many people know, well, what is it? And what do those people do over there in that historic building on East Main Street? Well, this video was developed just to answer that question. So let's do the video. It's about 6 minutes, so it's not too long. It explains some of the things that we do. And then after that, what I would like to do is open it up to questions, because we want to learn what you wonder about to help us in our trek to the future. So Jim, if we're ready, we'll play the video.
Each of us has a story. For some, it's that you've worked hard all your life, made something of yourself, and are providing well for your family. You've made a living, now you want to make an impact. Perhaps your story centers on Hudson, how you've loved this community, its beauty, and the values it represents. You've raised a family here, and now you want to enhance the lives of others. Or maybe education has been key to your biography. You know the importance of a good education. Now you want to help educate tomorrow's leaders. Each of us has our own unique story. We feel fortunate to have lived and prospered in a place as wonderful as Hudson. Now you want to give back, make a difference, take what you have created and somehow pay it forward in the next chapter of your life. This is the mission of the Hudson Community Foundation, to help individuals like you create lasting legacies. How do we do this? It's simple, really, by asking people like you who already give to many causes to give to those same causes through the Hudson Community Foundation. You don't give to the Hudson Community Foundation, you give through it by utilizing one of our simple, smart, charitable tools. If you've been considering how to fulfill your charitable desires, Hudson Community Foundation is an amazing resource right in our own backyard. We can help with strategies that make the most of your gifts to charity while maximizing the tax benefits to you. We make it easy for you to donate to the causes that are important to you. no matter where they are located. It's as easy as letting one of our experts open a fund in your name, in your family's name, or in the memory of a loved one. For example, if you or someone special finds joy in Hudson's beautiful floral gardens, you can support your passion for flowers for years to come with a fund specifically for that purpose. If you believe that education is the most important investment we can make in our future, you can open a fund in your name that awards scholarships to Hudson students for generations to come. If you've been a successful business person who wants to make a lasting impression, you can open a fund that honors your company's name. Perhaps you've always wanted to establish a private foundation. In the traditional form, setup and maintenance are complex and expensive. But the Hudson Community Foundation, through our donor-advised fund, offers an alternative that makes it cost-effective and available to charitable-minded individuals like you. Working with Hudson Community Foundation has many benefits to you. For example, the ability to accept a wide array of assets. You can give cash, stocks, real estate, or life insurance, and take immediate and maximum tax advantages. You support your favorite charities while keeping your financial advisor involved every step of the way. Best of all, administrative fees stay right here in Hudson, helping local programs. Charitable funds are available at many institutions, but not all funds are alike. Many funds are sponsored by financial services companies, which limit your choices. But Hudson Community Foundation is truly independent. Since we don't sell products, our independence gives you and your financial advisor maximum objectivity. Unlike most other programs, we encourage your family to be involved with your charitable giving. In fact, we have several residents who have set up funds in their families' names and make it a point to involve their children and their grandchildren when selecting charitable causes. You can start your fund with as little as $2,500. We can't think of a better way to pass along your values of giving back. Simply put, Hudson Community Foundation helps you realize your charitable wishes with personalized services offered at our convenient downtown location. We are very fortunate to have this nationally accredited community foundation in our own backyard, a foundation that will support Hudson in perpetuity. Imagine what we can do together. Do you want parks and walking trails? Are you passionate about keeping art and culture in our schools? Do you have a special program, church, or organization that you want to support? We can do all of this and more together. We are flexible and located right here in your community, so we can create a fund around those causes that are important to you. As we enter our second decade, you can help to write our next chapter. It's clear we connect people with causes that matter, but we can't do it without you. So what's your story? We hope it's told forever through the Hudson Community Foundation, where we empower simple, smart, and meaningful philanthropy that will help to enrich Hudson and your family forever. And remember, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Learn more at www.myhcf.org.
Thank you. Let's do it again. As I said, what we would like to do today is to learn what concerns you or what you wonder about. So I'll open up the floor to questions. I have my guests here are Drew Forehand, is a board member. A lot of our members are board members. So amongst all of us, surely there's an answer somewhere. So go ahead. Someone's got a mic somewhere that you can use to answer the question.
Testing. There we go. That was a great video. Where do you plan on presenting it?
We plan to present it at any place that will have us. Seriously, we're looking at, obviously, to all the service clubs, any organization in Hudson that we can use to spread the word.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, also, we did get a chance, I'm sure all of you have seen the video before because it was at the school board meeting last night, and I know you're all watching that on the, either on Hudson Cable or on the internet. But the occurrence of it being in the school board, it's not really a question, but Bill Woodridge is up there, and he had created a fund that's supporting the schools, particularly those students, which we do have in Hudson, who are in need in supporting their ability to participate in programs. And so obviously, again, we want to thank them for that. And that was facilitated through the Hudson Community Foundation.
Yes, that's a good example of one of the things we do is to enable people to create a fund based on your passion. If you have a passion for a particular subject, like Bill Woodridge, for example, learned of the Student Assistance Fund that the school solicits everybody every year to contribute to, and it's basically a fund that's divided amongst the principals. And if there's a student that can't afford to go on a field trip or something of that nature and can't participate in the full benefits of the Hudson education, then this fund can be used to pay for that. And Bill started the fund and publicized it amongst his friends. Other people can contribute to it who share the passion, and it creates an ongoing legacy that will continue forever. The fund is an endowment fund, meaning that most of the capital is preserved to earn dividends over the years and grow, and those dividends, of course, is what funds the annual grants to the Hudson City Schools. Rich, you had a question?
Well, just grab the microphone to see if anybody else wanted, but would you like to share with the members here, you, Drew, or Amy, what we do with grants given out as far as from the annual fund?
Yes, the annual fund is another one of our vehicles. It's where we solicit the community every fall for donations towards our annual fund. The annual fund then has a goal to contribute to causes within Hudson. So we meet quarterly. It usually gains about $20,000. As I said before, the board pays for the operational costs that aren't funded by our normal fee structure. So not $1 is used from anything contributed to Hudson by an individual for our operations. All of it goes back out. So we accept grants from organizations around town. We used to do the Hudson City Schools, which now Bill's fund has taken over. We contribute to the Music on the Western Reserve, mental health in Hudson. There are several categories that we contribute to annually. So it's usually roughly around 15 to 20 grand. It fully represents just people that have donated small amounts just to allow us to make those, support those organizations in Hudson. Anything else?
How many participants are in the group?
Well, on our board we have roughly 20 people. We have approximately 75 individuals mostly in Hudson, some from without, who have created their own donor advised funds that was referred to in the video. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Okay. Those 75 donor advised fund holders typically make grants to Hudson causes. In a past year, we've roughly $600,000 from this group has been contributed towards Hudson causes. A donor advised fund holder obviously can donate to anybody in the 50 U.S. states, but since they're from Hudson primarily, they focus on Hudson.
Jim, you mentioned that those donor-advised funds can contribute to local, national causes. Is there a limitation on what those funds can go to? And if so, who makes that decision?
Well, that's one of the services we provide for someone who wants to make a grant to an organization. If you want to deduct your charitable deductions on your income tax, it has to be to a legitimate charity, meaning basically that they are a 501c3. So when a fund holder wants to make a contribution to an organization, we do the due diligence of assuring that that organization can accept charitable donations, and then you get the full benefits of the tax deduction. Did that answer the question?
Thank you.
Okay.
Jim?
Yes.
The fireworks endowment is in the Hudson Community
Yes.
Foundation, isn't it? Can you give us a status on like what that's up to, and
Sure.
at what point do you think that that will permanently endow? Or
Sure. Well, for the benefit of everyone that may not be familiar with it, several years ago, our fireworks didn't happen. Previously, it had been funded by 2 or 3 local companies, and because of the economy and so forth, they decided they couldn't do that any longer. So we skipped a year, and of course, everybody was very disappointed. At Hudson Community Foundation, we figured that that was a community asset. People enjoyed it. Hundreds of people, even though they didn't go to the fireworks at Barlow, they would be in their backyard. I mean, being close to it, they could watch the thing. They'd have a party and so forth. So there were many thousands of people that truly enjoyed that. So we decided to take on the project of maintaining the fireworks celebration near July the 4th. And we solicited funds, and the intent is to create an endowment so that someday there won't be any solicitation. The fund will simply, because of the gains during the year and the dividends, would fund the fireworks. Now, the fireworks cost about $30,000 a year. The city contributes a like amount, which they have always done, and they will continue to do that. So you're talking about an exercise that roughly costs $60,000. So the $30,000 that we're talking about to fund would take an endowment of a roughly $600,000 or $700,000 in order to earn that much money during the year. We currently are around $300,000 in the endowment fund, meaning that the donations we've received have paid for the current fireworks, and then the excess is put in the investment fund, so it will grow to the point someday it will fund itself. That's the fireworks program. And we did that because we wanted to be, again, an asset in the community, and so we took on the job of managing that and making it possible.
Question again, Jim, and maybe you want to share this with the audience, or Drew or Amy, about the certification that the foundation just received from.
Yes. Well, there's like in all industries, there are organizations that look you over and certify that you're legit and you conform to the standards that are required and so forth. The Community Foundation industry has one called Council of Foundations, and they've been doing this for years. And one of the trademarks you want to gain is to be certified by the Council on Foundations. It took us almost a year to develop the answer to 33 questions they ask you. It all has to do about your policies, your operating methods, and so forth. And so we spent the time to do that and submitted it, and we received their certification about 18 months ago, roughly. Most of you guys in business are familiar with the ISO 9000 standards that everybody in the world tries to meet. It's similar to that. And when we got through, we had a book this big of all the data and the so forth that we had to submit. So it was a big task, but well worth it, because that gives us a certification that tells everyone this is a legitimate organization and they run their business the way it's supposed to be. That's what that's about. Bill?
Yeah, you might mention the role that the Community Foundation fulfilled.
Start over. Yeah.
Yeah. You might mention the role that the Community Foundation fulfilled or played in the Hudson Memorial Stadium, because that was a major undertaking, and you
did a lot of work on it.
Yes. Well, this is another thing that Hudson Community Foundation takes pride in being able to do. We had a citizen in Hudson who made an initial grant of roughly $2 million to create our stadium. This had been a desire for many years and had been attempted before. But working with Mr. Murdo and a couple of other major donors, we created the fund and did the back office work, if you will, of handling the pledges and so forth to congregate the funds and then pay them out as they came due to complete the stadium. The stadium was roughly a $5 million enterprise. So it took hundreds of donations from people all over Hudson and some outside of Hudson, you know, students and so forth that had grown up and made their way in the world. So we viewed that as a service that we could provide to enable that project to come to its fruition. And Mr. Sogan, head of the Hudson City Schools Foundation, which took on this project along with us, was a big part of that. Ed?
Just a comment in regards to, probably wasn't a goal of the Community Foundation, but they were the umbrella for Community First, for Taste of Hudson, and also the Hudson City Schools Foundation in regards to the fledgling programs that were able to build and prosper under that umbrella and then separate and become their own 501c3. So appreciate that.
Yeah, just for the benefit of everyone, that's another service that the foundation has provided, and that is when groups want to form together and take on a project, and they have to ask people for donations to make it possible, they have to be a legitimate charity in the eyes of the IRS in order to accept that money, and then the donor then can make the deduction on his income taxes. So the service we provided was to allow them to come under our umbrella of the 501c3 as a component fund, and so then they could legitimately ask for donations to further their cause. Good examples of that, most of you are familiar with the Leadership Hudson class. That's where most of these projects came from. Each year the class has to have a class project. One year the class project was Taste of Hudson. So the next year it was Farmers Market. So these things are enabled, if you will, by being under our umbrella of the 501c3, and it helps them do the hard work of raising money and not have to worry about all the legalities of the donations and so forth. So these organizations have grown up. Hudson Community First was a good example of one that we took on very, very early. And then when they were of sufficient size, they split off and got their own 501c3, and now they're doing business as a separate entity. Taste of Hudson, same story, the Farmers Market, and so forth. Yes? Oh, I thought I saw a hand.
Actually, I have a question.
Yes,
so
Steve.
if we happen to have stock that actually has gone up, can we, rather than sell it and pay taxes and then donate the money, can we donate the stock directly to
Absolutely. You can use, and that's a good example of a smart thing, smart way to do it. If you have a highly appreciated stock, meaning that, one, you're faced with a dilemma, well, what do I do now? I've got a gain of 50% or whatever, and now I've got to pay capital gains if I just simply sell that stock. Well, you can donate it, the stock, to your donor advised fund, and 100% of it is used as a deduction or a charitable donation you've made, so that you get a bigger tax benefit that way. That's the way I started my own donor advised fund years ago. That's a smart way to do it. Any other questions? Phil?
Thank you for mentioning that, Jim. The taxes are an important reason. People give for their own reasons, and it could be because they're interested in a charitable cause, because they want to remember somebody in their family. But they also give for personal reasons. And taxes are a very important thing. Jim mentioned one of those. There are 5 tax benefits. Typically, people think there's 4, but there are actually 5. Jim mentioned one, the avoidance of the capital gains tax. So any assets that are given to us that are appreciated, you avoid the capital gains tax. Hudson Community Fund doesn't pay any capital gains tax on it. So 100% of the gift goes into the donor's fund without any taxes at all. The other thing is that they get an immediate income tax deduction. And that deduction is the best deduction you can get. Because remember, Hudson Community Foundation is a public charity, just like the American Red Cross. But instead of doing disaster relief, we just take these dollars under our umbrella and put it into an investment account. And the donor gets a deduction for the income tax. It's the best one you can get, much better than it would be for a private foundation. So you have 2 there, the income tax deduction, the avoidance of the capital gains tax. The third one is when you give money to the Hudson Community Foundation, it goes to them. It's a gift to them. It's not yours anymore. So it's in the name of American Endowment Foundation for the benefit of, let's say, the Smith Family Foundation. So since it's in the name of the Hudson Community Foundation, it's not subject to estate taxes. The fourth benefit is you're familiar with Roths, how they work. If you have a Roth account, you don't pay any taxes on it at all. And that's different than a regular 401k where the taxes are just deferred. In the gift to the Hudson Community Foundation, there are no taxes. So any monies that are in there are going to grow forever without any taxes at all. And then the fifth one is a little bit of a surprise. And there's probably some people in this room that are subject to this. And many people in Hudson are subject to this. Your gift to the Hudson Community Foundation is a deduction against your alternative minimum tax. A lot of people don't think that's something, but boy, it is a huge thing. A gift to a charity is one of the few deductions you can take on your alternative minimum tax. So there's some real powerful tax benefits from something like that.
Thanks, Phil.
Also, Jim, I heard you have a Dynamite website.
We have a website. Or you're looking at it. Okay. Our website is currently about to undergo a rejuvenation, if you will. One of our goals in the next year is to grow the website and make it more functional and informational and useful to people that land on it. Anything else? Well, I'll end by saying that if you're a Hudson citizen that has gotten to the point in their life where they want to make a difference, they want to pay back, if you will, the Hudson Community Foundation is a good way to fulfill those wishes in a smart and simple way. If there are no further questions, I'll end the meeting. Thank you. There's always one more thing, right? I brought some Hudson Community Foundation annual reports with me. I'll put them on the front table as you go out. If you so desire, please feel free to pick one up. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I was getting a little worried here. You know, I thought, oh, this is going to go 10 minutes. But we picked up steam.
Can I just make a comment too?
Oh, get a mic. Yes, sir.
Having served on the board for Seton Catholic School, we also established a fund inside the Hudson Community Foundation for those members of St. Mary's that would like to contribute to Catholic education. So, thank you.
Fantastic. Rich.
Hudson Community Foundation's board members and other members are not in the business of giving out tax advice, so please seek your personal CPA for tax advice.
Rich, hang on just a second, buddy.
Is that a fine?
Oh, yeah. That could be a record setter.
Does anyone know a good CPA in town?
Well, in your January meeting, you're going to hear from a local CPA that may touch on some of these subject matters. But no, Phil's he's dead on as usual, other than the fact that charitable deductions are not a deduction for AMT. They're just not an add back for AMT. But it's the same thing in the big picture. But anyway, back to Camp Manitowoc. November 1st, we're going to have the pool cleanup day, and we had 8 or 9 fine gentlemen. We'd love to see some ladies here this year. If it can fit into your schedule, it'll be Saturday at 8 o'clock, I believe, 8:30. Breakfast will be served, and then after we're done, they'll serve us lunch, which last year's lunch was pretty darn good. Then what else I want to say? Mr. Sogan hit it dead on when he talked about the volleyball team, and they won again last night against Stowe for their 16th straight victory. So they are moving right along, and the districts start next Wednesday, I believe. So like many other Hudson sports teams, it seems like they're all doing well this fall, and they all need to be commended, and we wish them well. I think that's it.
Well, you got to brag a little bit.
Brag.
Your daughter?
Oh, well, yeah. Emily got called up for varsity. If you didn't know, I think I said that at Happy News, did I not?
12 or 13 times, yeah.
Well, let's make this 14. Yeah, I'm hanging around Gail Royster a lot, so. Is that another fine?
This just gets better and better.
So yeah, she's one of the few sophomores that called up from the JV team. So she's very excited to play varsity, and I'm sure she'll represent the bench well. So.
Well, since Gail got called out, what about Brooke?
Oh, that's soccer, yes.
No, we need to save these for Happy News now. Come on.
Give it to Gail.
Oh, they play tonight. Home, right? Ed, what's their record? 8-1, 9-1, 10-1. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, but they play at home tonight.
Now, Duncan, you probably don't know this, but I think I saw her granddaughter's picture in the paper, too.
You know, Tom, you're walking a fine line there. You know, now you're throwing somebody under the bus.
Well, that's okay. I'll pay for that, too.
You're about to. I can't write fast enough.
Any other good news since we're talking? No? Okay.
I need a secretary. I'm telling you. Just record the meeting.
Well, now we come to the important stuff here. Rotobuck. We have a weekly payout of $13. And a certain someone sitting back there took all the money, so the jackpot now is $113. Here we go.
I need to put these on, hang on. Last 4 digits are 9629.
9629. Do we have a winner? Oh, it's a fix.
Oh, boy.
There's a winning ticket. There's money. You gotta get over here so we get you on TV, big guy.
Can I look and see what
Sure you can. That's not black one. See, this is the black one.
Oh, okay. That looks like a black one too.
Okay, I'll take it out then, so you don't get too shiny.
Is that not that?
No.
Ah, can't block.
Meeting adjourned.